Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, Mets fans? And I need everyone watching this video to understand something right from the start. What I'm about to discuss is not some minor roster move that we can debate the merits of. This is not a situation where reasonable people can disagree. Trading Brandon Nimmo was an absolute disaster, a catastrophic mistake that's going to haunt this franchise for years, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. Hit that like button if you're already furious about losing Nimmo, and stick around because by the time I'm done breaking this down, you're going to realize that David Stearns has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Let's start with who Brandon Nimmo actually is, because I think some people have forgotten or maybe never fully appreciated what this guy brought to the Mets. Brandon Nimmo is a homegrown Met. The organization drafted him in 2011. He came up through their farm system. He developed as a player in their organization. He represents one of the rare success stories of Mets player development. And that matters. That has real value in a franchise that has historically struggled to develop position players. But it's not just about being homegrown. It's about what Nimmo did on the field. The guy was consistently one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball. He got on base at an elite level. His career on-base percentage is over .360. He played solid defense in center field. He was durable, playing in at least 140 games in multiple seasons. He did all the little things that winning teams need. He worked counts. He wore down pitchers. He set the table for the guys behind him. And it wasn't just about statistics. Brandon Nimmo represented something to this fan base. He was the guy who smiled when he ran to first base. He brought energy and positivity. He was beloved by teammates and fans alike. In a market that can be cynical and tough, Nimmo was genuine and authentic. He loved playing for the Mets. He signed an extension to stay here when he could have tested free agency. He bet on this organization, and they just traded him away. Now, let's talk about why David Stearns made this trade, because the reasoning is what makes this so infuriating. According to reports, Stearns wanted roster flexibility. He wanted to free up payroll space. He wanted to be able to make other moves. Those are all small market justifications for trading a core player. Those are the kinds of reasons the Oakland A's give when they're trading away their best players. Those are not reasons the New York Mets, with Steve Cohen's unlimited resources, should ever be using. Roster flexibility? What does that even mean in this context? The Mets needed outfielders. They needed on-base guys. They needed homegrown players who understood what it meant to play in New York. Trading Nimmo created a hole. It didn't create flexibility. Now the Mets have to go find a center fielder. They have to replace his on-base ability. They have to find someone who can hit leadoff effectively. How is that flexibility? That's creating a problem where one didn't exist. And the payroll space argument is even more ridiculous. Steve Cohen is worth $14 billion. He just got approval for an $8 billion casino project. Nimmo's contract was 8 years and $162 million, which averages out to about $20 million per year. That's completely reasonable for a player of his caliber. That's not some albatross contract that's handcuffing the organization. Steve Cohen makes more than Nimmo's annual salary and interest on his investments probably every few hours. Freeing up that payroll space accomplishes nothing when you have unlimited money. So if it's not really about flexibility and it's not really about payroll, what's this trade actually about? It's about David Stearns operating with a Milwaukee mindset in a New York environment. In Milwaukee, you trade players before they get too expensive. You cash in on value while you can. You're constantly cycling through players to maximize efficiency on a limited budget. But the Mets don't have a limited budget. They don't need to trade Brandon Nimmo to afford other players. They can keep Nimmo and add whoever else they want. Let's talk about what the Mets got in return for Nimmo, because that's where this trade goes from bad to absolutely terrible. They got Marcus Semien from the Rangers. Now, Semien is a solid player. I'm not going to sit here and trash him, but he's 35 years old. He's on the wrong side of his career arc. He's transitioning from shortstop to second base because he can't handle the defensive demands of his natural position anymore. And the Mets gave up Brandon Nimmo, who's 31 years old and still in his prime, for that. Think about the timeline here. The Mets are supposed to be trying to win now. Steve Cohen wants championships. The window is supposed to be open. So you trade a player in his prime for a player on the decline. You trade someone who can contribute at a high level for multiple years for someone who might have 1 or 2 good years left. How does that make any sense whatsoever if you're trying to win? And here's what really drives me crazy. The Mets didn't have to make this trade. Nobody forced them to. Brandon Nimmo didn't demand a trade. He wasn't unhappy. He wasn't a problem in the clubhouse. He was perfectly happy being a Met. This was entirely David Stearns deciding that he knew better, that he could improve the roster by trading a core player for a veteran on the decline. That's ego. That's arrogance. That's a front office executive trying to prove he's smarter than everyone else. Let me also point out what this trade signals to the rest of the clubhouse and to potential free agents. When you trade away a homegrown player who signed an extension to stay with your team, you're telling everyone that loyalty doesn't matter. You're saying that even if you do everything right, even if you perform and represent the organization well and commit to being here long term, the front office will still trade you if they think they can squeeze out a tiny bit more efficiency. That's a terrible message to send. Francisco Lindor sees that. Other players around the league see that. Agents see that. And it makes the Mets a less attractive destination. Why would a free agent want to sign here long term if they know the front office might just trade them away in a few years because David Stearns decides he wants roster flexibility? The Brandon Nimmo trade is also part of a larger pattern that should terrify Mets fans. Pete Alonso, gone without an offer. Edwin Diaz, lost to the Dodgers. Brandon Nimmo, traded away. That's 3 core players from the 2024 playoff team that are no longer with the organization. And what has David Stearns done to replace them? He signed Jorge Polanco, who hit 8 home runs last season. He traded for Marcus Semien, who's 35 years old. He brought in Devin Williams, but lost Edwin Diaz in the process. The roster is objectively worse. There's no debate about that. The Mets lost more talent than they added. They got older at key positions. They created holes that didn't exist. And all of this is happening with the richest owner in baseball funding the operation. It's organizational malpractice. And you know what Brandon Nimmo's going to do with the Rangers? He's going to thrive. He's going to hit leadoff. He's going to get on base at an elite level. He's going to play solid defense. He's going to be exactly the player he was with the Mets, except now he'll be doing it for someone else, and Mets fans are going to watch it happen and wonder why their team gave that away for nothing. Let's also talk about the defensive implications of this trade. Brandon Nimmo was the Mets center fielder. Center field is one of the most important defensive positions. You need range, you need instincts, you need someone who can cover ground, and the Mets just traded that away. Now they're going to have to figure out their outfield defense, probably shifting players around, probably creating more problems than they solve. Meanwhile, Marcus Semien is moving to second base because he can't play shortstop effectively anymore at his age. So the Mets traded a quality defender at a premium position for an aging player who's moving to a less demanding position because his skills are declining. Again, how does that make the team better? Here's what I think really happened with this trade. David Stearns looked at Brandon Nimmo's contract and decided it was too long and too expensive for his liking. He saw 8 years and $162 million, and his Milwaukee brain said that's an inefficient allocation of resources. So he found a way to move that contract and convinced himself it was addition by subtraction, that he was making the roster more flexible and setting the team up for long-term success. But that small market thinking applied to a big market team. Steve Cohen doesn't care about Nimmo's contract. He's paying for it with money he doesn't even notice is missing. The only person who cares about the financial efficiency of that contract is David Stearns because he's incapable of thinking any other way. And the result is that the Mets just traded away a beloved homegrown player in his prime for a 35-year-old veteran who's on the decline. They created a hole in center field. They sent a terrible message to the rest of the roster and to potential free agents. They made the team worse in the present and didn't really improve the future, all because David Stearns wanted roster flexibility that he doesn't actually need. This trade is going to age terribly. In 2 years, when Marcus Semien is struggling and Brandon Nimmo is still producing at a high level for the Rangers, people are going to look back at this moment and ask what the hell David Stearns was thinking. And the answer is going to be that he was thinking like a small market executive who doesn't understand how to maximize the advantages that come with having unlimited resources. Brandon Nimmo should still be a Met. He wanted to be a Met. He signed an extension to stay a Met. The fans loved him. He produced on the field. There was literally no reason to trade him except David Stern's ego and his small market conditioning. And now he's gone, and the team is worse for it. So here's what I want from you in the comments. Do you think trading Brandon Nimmo was a disaster? Do you think this is going to be another move we look back on with regret? Are you as frustrated as I am watching David Stearns dismantle a core that made the playoffs just to prove he's smarter than everyone else? Because I'm telling you right now, this trade was indefensible then, and it's going to look even worse as time goes on. Hit that subscribe button for more Honest Mets content that holds this front office accountable. Drop your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue exposing the dysfunction and demanding better from an organization that should be competing for championships, but instead is getting worse under David Stearns' leadership.